Thank you. Again, my name is Vineet Gupta. I'm the Director of Planning at the Law School Transportation Department. And I'm here once again, and this is one of several community meetings that we've been doing in the last 3 or 4 months to talk about some improvements to Commercial Street. I'm going to do a very brief presentation, about 5 minutes, so we can have more question and answers. And I think some of you might have seen this presentation before, so I apologize. I'm here really on behalf of the Transportation Department, but also the Public Works Department and the VRA, and one consultant is Hardy from Palestine Hudson and Nick Jackson from NEWRA Design Group. Essentially, the idea here is to, the proposal is to redesign Commercial Street to make it friendlier for pedestrians particularly, make it safer for everybody, whether they're in cars or they're walking or they're bicycling, and also to make it safer for bicyclists, and to connect everybody to public transportation to the extent that we can. And we did, in a partnership with the National Park Service, we did a planning study, and we had some proposals in that study. We we applied for a federal grant, federal dollars, and we won that grant. And so now we have money to take the initial planning to final design. We're in the early stages. We're at 25% right now. Final design, ultimately construction. So there's good opportunity here to see Commercial Street reorganized. Commercial Street as part, the grant is actually also for improving Blackstone Block, for improving Constitution Road in the Charlestown area, and Joy Street on Beacon Hill, all historical streets. The portion that we're going to talk about today really is Commercial Street from Christopher Columbus Park, going up along on the waterfront side, all the way up to really the skating rink, just past the park, the polo park. So our goals are pretty straightforward, and they really come from the community. As I said, we want to make it friendlier for pedestrians and make it safe for everybody. But we also want to do this without losing a single parking space. We also want to do this without losing a single travel lane than what's out there today. So there's no loss in capacity for traffic. We also want to make sure that there is enough access to all the waterfront side facilities. And then you can ask me, well, how are you going to do this? And what's your proposal? And what we are fundamentally going to do, if you go to Commercial Street today, there are 2 bicycle lanes in each direction, and they're 5 feet wide. We're going, and that's what you see on, I know that many of you can't see that from where you're sitting, but what we're fundamentally going to do is we're going to remove those 2 bicycle lanes that are on the street today, combine them, and put them on the waterfront side at a level that's higher than the roadway level. So the sidewalk will be as wide as it is today, and then there will be an additional 10 to 12 feet where you will have a separated bicycle facility. So we're just taking those 2 5-feet sections on the street today, combining them and putting them at the sidewalk level on the waterfront side, not on the neighborhood side. That's fundamentally what we're doing. And as part of that, we would, I'm sorry, am I coming over this part? We would reconstruct the sidewalk on the waterfront side. We would adjust street furniture like bus stops or hydrants so that we can actually get more parking spaces, because sometimes there's a hydrant in the middle of the road, in the middle of the block, and then you lose some spaces. If you put it at the intersection, then you can get an extra space. We're going to keep all the trees, other than those that might be unhealthy. We're going to replace the existing lights that are there today with fancier lights. They're called pendant lights on both sides of Commercial Street. The only improvement that we'll do on the neighborhood side, because we want to keep everything pretty much exactly the way it is today, is that we would put new pedestrian ramps and new crosswalks across the street. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're planning to do. And a quick 2 words on cycle track. So what we're, like I said, we're going to have the bicycle facility now on the waterfront side, right next to the sidewalk. So Nick, if you two
Sure.
quick sentences on cycle track.
I'll be very quick. Cycle tracks is a term we kind of adopted from Europe. Some communities refer to them as separated bike lanes. And I think what we're finding is that some people are comfortable riding in the street, but many more people are interested in bicycling, but are not comfortable riding mixing it up with traffic. So a cycle track provides an experience similar to a bike path, but along a roadway. And I think I worked with the city to develop their bicycle plan. Again, what we heard is many people want to bicycle, but they're not comfortable riding in traffic, and they're interested in these types of facilities that give them that experience and provide that connectivity. So I think some of the benefits in this case is that we're actually reducing the crossing distance for pedestrians. Currently, you have the bike lanes on the roadway. With that space moving, your total crossing distance as a pedestrian is much shorter. Other cities that have implemented this have found that it actually reduces the amount of bicycles riding on the sidewalk. Those people who do bike but don't like the road often ride on the sidewalk. This gives them the space to ride away from pedestrians. Also, other cities are seeing an overall safety benefit, reduced conflicts between bicyclists and motorists, and bicyclists and pedestrians as well. And I'll just finally, I encourage you to go online, go to the next slide. The city has a comprehensive bicycle network plan. And one of the things we see with this facility is connecting residents in the north end with the cycle track to the network of off-street paths along the Charles River. So now you have a continuous off-street protected connection starting on Commercial Street to connect you to the paths along the Charles River.
No, we have. I just want to walk a little bit through a couple of details so that you understand exactly what we're doing, and then we can spend all the time. But I don't. If somebody wants to ask a question, they're more than welcome. Go right ahead.
Who asked
You asked us a little bit about traffic, and I can answer that question later on, or I can get into the detail right now. Yeah, essentially, you asked us at a meeting that we were at last year about what's the impact of reducing. When we did put the bicycle lanes on the street, we took away one of the travel lanes, and you asked us to look at what the difference was between when there was no bicycle lane on the street and compared to today. And essentially, what we found is that the traffic volumes have remained pretty much the same, slightly lower, but it does mean that in the eastbound direction, or if you're coming towards the Greenway from the North Station side, that when you come right at the Greenway, that we're seeing a little more backup than we did previously. And as part of this project, we will be retiming all the signals along the entire length of Commercial Street to synchronize them better and try and improve traffic flow. 2 more slides. Just to explain what we're doing here, if you are on Atlantic Avenue and then you turn around on Atlantic Avenue as it goes past Christopher Columbus Park, you would get here's Atlantic Avenue, Christopher Columbus Park. We would actually in this section all the way to Commercial Wharf, we would actually keep the separated bicycle lane on the street. Because there's no parking currently along Commercial Wharf, so we can actually do that. But once you're past Joe's and you're near Commercial Wharf, it's from that point on that we would set the cycle track to be at the sidewalk level, and that would so it would be a 2-foot buffer, a 10-foot cycle track, and then the existing sidewalk would remain exactly as wide as it is today. The street lights would stay in the same location as with the trees, so there will be a separation between the sidewalk and the cycle track. And that section would continue all the way up to the rink, and right after the kind of the playgrounds, we would stop the cycle tracks and we would allow cyclists to go behind the rink, because that section of Commercial Street all the way up to Keeney Square or North Washington Street is very narrow, so there will be no cycle track in that area at all. So we're really stopping right at the skating rink.
Okay, all set?
Yes.
Nikki, you have a question?
Yeah, are you taking 10 feet away from the parks to make the cycle track?
No, we're not touching any of the parks. The existing sidewalk in front of Christopher Columbus Park is exactly where it's going to be, no change at all.
So that it'll be park, sidewalk, bike lanes, street.
Precisely.
And the bike lanes come out of the street.
Right, because they're two existing bike lanes, we just combine them together and make it two ways. That's pretty much it.
This, anybody else?
This
Joe?
bike lane is 10 foot wide.
Two
Against
ways.
the sidewalks. Where are the parked cars? On the other side of the lane?
They're,
Let me explain. Let me ask you a question another way. This bicycle lane is going to run between the sidewalk and the parked cars.
correct.
Are you serious? At an elevated level?
But there'll be a separation.
Wait a minute. You know what's going to happen. I mean, I went to ride a bike on Commercial Street, dodging trucks, years ago. And I see all this expense here. You're going to have an elevated thing, and you expect people to stay off of that lane when they park their cars? You expect Segways and motor scooters to stay off of that 10 foot wide lane? And use that and have just the cars park? They can't park now, the tourists are coming in now. You're going to put a 10 foot buffer there between the street and the curb, and you don't expect them to park there? You're not going to have a straight lane of clear bicycle riders. I don't see that. I really don't. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you?
Yeah, I'm trying to, of course.
Yeah, because
So you're saying that
if you experience the North End as somebody who drives and lives down here, you see the parking situation. You see how people park and how rear spots are. You give a 10 foot clearance from the curb to your parking spot. There's going to be people parking on that bike lane, and you're not going to get anybody to enforce this. And you're spending all this money to raise the street a little bit higher and a little lower than the curb, the sidewalk. What's wrong with the lane as it is now? Why not just put the two lanes on one side, on the other side of the bike? I mean, to ride a bike in the city of Boston is a challenge. You can't, if you're afraid to ride a bike, you shouldn't be on the Boston streets. I mean, but I'm talking about this one particular thing. I live at 357 Commercial Street, where this lane's going to be where they park cars. And I see issues because right now, not only do we have bikes, we have Segways,
Right.
we have motor scooters, we have maniacs on bikes that go the wrong ways, things like that. I just don't see this big expense for this type of thing. I foresee, maybe I'm a skeptic, but I foresee after you put all this money in this thing, it's not going to work. That's my opinion. It's people going to be parking on it, they're going to be doing things on it, and it's not going to be that pretty little lane you foresee in your pictures.
They would have to actually get onto the sidewalk.
It's a big deal. We did jump the curb now. That's nothing.
Is there examples of this working elsewhere?
Yes, and Nick can get into some detail, but it's been done in cities in the United States, actually, in New York and Baltimore and Cambridge, and it's been done for 10 years in Europe, and has been shown to make it safer for bicycles, less conflict with pedestrians, because they now have their own way, they're not on the sidewalk. It's just everybody has their own travel way, cars, parking, bicycles. And it's also seen for people who are worried about, for family-friendly bicycles. So
That's a question still.
Would Segways be allowed to come from the side, or they have to be on the street?
it's illegal for a Segway to be on a sidewalk in Boston, so it's not be allowed.
Tom?
The park use for the playing fields, the baseball fields, bocce courts, swimming pool, for discharging and picking up passengers for the teams and things like that, how will that impact people being able to stop and let their children out or pick up the equipment and things like that?
It'll be exactly the way it is today, except that you'll have about 3 or 4 feet less, because there's a bicycle lane right next to the park, right along the curb, so it'll be exactly the same. You have 2 lanes that are going towards Causeway Street or towards North Washington Street, and so it'll be very similar to what's out today, but there will be about 3 to 4 feet less space.
And you mentioned at the skating rink, the bikes are going to be allowed to go behind the rink. Is that
right? There's an existing path that takes you behind the rink, and then it continues down on the North Washington Street Bridge, and through the Lovejoy Wharf development on the other side of North Washington Street Bridge, we will connect it. We'll connect it back up to the Causeway Street area.
Well, my question was, because that's part of the harbor walk, and once the Converse headquarters is finished off and that harbor finished, will bicyclists coming in both directions with pedestrians, because that is a harbor walk,
Right.
will they be required to dismount, or what kind of safety features are being thought about pushing all of that additional bike traffic on that very under the bridge?
Yeah, that's something that we have to look at carefully, and separating bicycles with pedestrians is going to be important in that kind of off-road area. And depending on how much width you have, we'll be doing that. There'll be a lot of good new signage for sure.
Is whether in Europe or in other cities in our country, are there are there mandatory dismounts where the bicyclists have to get off their bikes?
Yes, particularly when you are, say, at an intersection, or they are required to. I'll be brave enough to say that not everybody does that, but that you are required to respond. I don't know, Nick, if you want to add to that a little bit.
My only concern, this is my last question. It could be, my sense is with the volume of the on the sidewalk, it could be a very dangerous situation if cyclists were allowed while the Freedom Trail and everyone's walking across, coming and going in both ways. That could be really dangerous.
I think we're cognizant of that, and we'll make sure that behind the rink and under the North Washington Street Bridge, those issues are looked at. Thank you, sir.
Jason?
I have a couple of questions as well. What, and I don't know if for the sake of repeating yourself, what was the total cost of this segment of the?
This segment is about $2 million, $2.5 million probably.
And you have a grant from the feds?
That's correct. But there is some city match that goes with it.
And how much is the city? So the grant you said 25% is the grant?
No, the grant is, the city has to put in 20 to 25%.
The city matches 25%, so 25% of $2 million?
Right.
And what stage of the approval process?
It's about 2.5. It's not exactly 2 because because the way it's done is that it's calculated as part of the entire project, so it sometimes gets difficult to put an exact amount at this stage in the design. Once we get to more detail, we'll know it.
And what stage of the approval process is this? I mean, did you need neighborhood approval to do this?
Well, we've been doing, we're at the 25% design stage. We have been community meetings from the concept stage since last fall.
I remember that, yeah.
So we've been incorporating comments as we get them. One of the big issues was parking, traffic capacity, less conflict with pedestrians that we heard from the community, traffic particularly as it goes towards.
Yeah, I remember, not to interrupt, I remember reading those, but in what stages, if there was, I'm not speaking for everyone else in the room, but if there's not a groundswell of support for this, or if there's opposition to this, what stage of where the neighborhood could say, we don't want it? Is there an opportunity for that to happen?
The way I look at these things is that, if it's not built, and till the day that it's not built, it's up to the people who live and work over here.
Is this a public works or a Parks Department or Transportation Department?
It's a public works. At this stage, it's a public works managed project, but all city agencies are working collectively as a team. It is at 25% stage. There is federal funding. If we don't finish the design by the end of May, then the federal government will take the money away and give it to another town. There were about 200 applications countrywide. We were one of the few that won it. So if we don't finish the design by the end of May, we would lose the money.
So probably my final question is, would you come back to these groups, this one and the one the president chairs over here, for approval if we, for somewhat of one stage of approval from us as neighbors of this, that yes, we like it, yes, we don't. We have people here who have to get approval for liquor licenses and, adding seats to the restaurant tonight. What stage can we weigh in on this rather than just tell you our concerns?
Well, we have to do open community meetings. So the ones that we did before, we're required to do that by law, and in those meetings that decisions are taken.
Thank you.
We are required by law to do a 25% hearing. So we will do that as well. And all the meetings are announced and advertised. in the newspapers.
Yeah,
So,
no, I know that.
we value what people who live here and who care about the neighborhood and have been coming to meetings of both groups for a long time. We care about your opinion, absolutely.
Gentleman next to Jason?
Is it the intention to depress the raised platform at every driveway, or is there going to be a 10-foot speed bump coming out of every driveway?
We're going to keep the sidewalk at the same level continuously. So if you're coming out of a driveway, we will gradually slope you up to the sidewalk. So it won't be a speed bump, but yes, you'll be coming up just like you would do on any driveway when you have a crosswalk. A sidewalk. To come up to the sidewalk level so that pedestrians have the right of way.
And would that be the same case over at Battery Street?
It would be continuous along the entire
It
lane.
would never depress?
No.
Jim, this question is somewhat related to the first question asked by the gentleman to my left. And it is, what is the reason that the bicycle lanes will be at the street level that is not raised along Christopher Columbus Park if sidewalk level is safer?
I'm sorry. So,
As I understand it, and as I read here, the bicycle lanes will be on road, that is at street level along Christopher Columbus Park,
Right.
rather than being raised in other areas.
Right.
And if it's safer to have them raised, why don't you have them raised along Christopher Columbus Park as well?
good question, and we thought about that, and I can't remember exactly what. One of the reasons is that because we have to make the transition from the bicycle facility that's coming on Atlantic Avenue along the Greenway. So that's on the road. So we have to find a place for it to come up to the sidewalk, and we just felt, and you guys should jump in if there were other reasons. We just felt it's safer to make that transition from road to sidewalk once we had passed Joe's, essentially, or just short of Joe's. Because.
Just to clarify, there is still a vertical curb separating the cycle track from the roadway.
Right there.
Yeah. So to answer your question about the safety, there still is that vertical curb separating.
Well, safety for the bicyclists, it's not separated from the vehicles.
It is, yes.
So the curb is between, it's like a median.
Oh, the separation is,
Yes.
I thought you were speaking of the curb at the sidewalk.
No, I'm sorry, between,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
It's a narrow median between the travel lane and the cycle track.
I see, thanks.
Sure.
And Nicole, I assume that both Mayors Medina and Walsh strongly support this.
I'm still working with the transportation department. We'll go back after these meetings. There were 3 meetings this week, so we'll talk about it, and I'll just report back today what we've done.
I have a few questions, and I don't need to put you on the spot. Since this whole bicycle phenomenon has occurred in Boston, how many cyclists have been killed?
What's the question?
How many cyclists have been killed?
Cycling fatalities.
It's, as more and more, I don't have the exact number actually, but the number of people on bicycles is increasing at a very fast rate. So it's literally almost doubling every year. So there are many more bicyclists than there were ever before on Boston's roads, and that's increasing every year.
So the second question is, what type of training do these cyclists have? Do they carry insurance?
They don't. They carry insurance just like any of us do.
Yeah, but when you have a car, you're required to carry automatic insurance. And I walk the North End twice a day, and some of these cyclists are insane. They think they're the only one on the road, and anybody that gets in their way, God help them. The third thing is, what impact is this new configuration going to have on street cleaning on that side of Russian Street?
It's going to be just the way it's done today, with the street cleaning piece.
And then the fourth thing is, what are your plans for the homeless people that live under the North Washington Street Bridge?
That's not really.
Well, that's a big problem.
You got any more?
Get the bicycle.
Okay, just one more. Mary?
I would just like to say I love this plan. And having seen how this works in other cities, in other countries, we need to do this. It will make things safer. More people can bike who wouldn't bike. I'm one of them. I won't go on the city streets. I would bike on something like that. I think other people will. We need to do more of it. That's why I support what Victor said. You know, if it's safer, do it everywhere you can do it. But my question just is, you talked about making Commercial Street more friendly for pedestrians, which is so important because in this neighborhood, everyone lives on one side, but all the recreational opportunities are on the other side of Commercial Street. Is there anything else that you will be doing to calm the people who use that as a speedway right now, who are not North End people for the most part, but people who use that as a shortcut? Cabbies who are speeding through there, it really is very dangerous. And I, for one, would have been happy if you said you were taking away a traffic lane there, to tell you the truth.
We can't take away a traffic lane, but the fact that it will be the amount of distance a pedestrian has to cross the street between the sidewalks on both ends will be slightly shorter. So in that way, the road would be a little more manageable and pedestrian friendly.
I'll add too, we also heard specific concerns about the turn in front of the rink, specific issues regarding vehicles speeding around that corner. So we're actually adding special markings to help the slow vehicles in that location as well.
Quickly,
forward. A very quick, non-controversial question, a new one. Can you tell us, as part of this project, is there going to be a full resurfacing of Commercial Street? Is there going to be a redo of the surfacing of all the sidewalks?
On the waterfront side and on the neighborhood side, we would redo all the pedestrian ramps and crosswalks.
Okay. And the lighting fixtures that you're talking about are part of this project too.
But they will be done on both sides.
Right. Yeah. So you know they're sort of getting these federal funds for the bicycle lane also gets us all these other improvements.
Absolutely. I mean, the federal funds is really, we haven't said that this is necessarily only a bicycle facility. You said it's for pedestrians and for bicycles and to the extent and for cars. It's what we call inside baseball, something say a multimodal approach.
Okay, great. Okay, we're running extremely late, so thank you very much.
Appreciate it.